On the night of July 4th, 2024, Castleman Street was the heart of celebration. Among the revelers was 39-year-old Tasha Hyman, a renowned makeup artist and owner of Slay by Shay. Known for her transformative skills and warm personality, Tasha had built a loyal clientele of over 1,000 individuals throughout Fort Worth. Her fiancé, Tommy Howard, described her as the sweetest person on this earth, crediting her with helping him heal after the loss of his previous fiancée to cancer 4 years prior. She was cheerful. She was just a good spirit. She actually was my savior, Howard reflected. As the evening progressed, the block party swelled, with an estimated 200 to 300 people filling the streets. Fireworks lit up the sky, but some attendees began directing them toward neighboring houses, escalating tensions. The situation intensified when drivers started performing dangerous stunts, doing donuts at the intersection of Castleman and Comanche Streets. The noise and reckless behavior became overwhelming, prompting nearby residents to reach their breaking point. In the midst of the chaos, Tasha, ever the social butterfly, decided to live stream the festivities on her social media. Her videos captured the escalating disorder, including a moment when a firework exploded just feet away from a police cruiser, its lights flashing as officers monitored the situation. Despite the growing unrest, Tasha's focus remained on sharing the joy of the celebration with her followers. But joy turned to terror in an instant. Gunfire erupted, sending the crowd into a frenzy. People screamed, ducked for cover, and scattered in all directions. In the chaos, Tasha was struck by bullets, collapsing as her live stream abruptly ended. The sudden silence on her feed was a chilling contrast to the moments of celebration just before. The aftermath was devastating. Tasha was pronounced dead at the scene, leaving her family, friends, and the community in shock and mourning. Another individual, 26-year-old Marcus Martin Jr. from San Diego, California, also lost his life that night due to a medical emergency amidst the turmoil. At least 2 others sustained gunshot wounds, but were expected to survive. In the days following the tragedy, tributes poured in for Tasha. Her business, Slay by Shay, released a heartfelt statement. "It is with a heavy heart that we announce the passing of our beloved owner, Latasha." The studio temporarily closed its doors as the community grappled with the loss. Tommy Howard, devastated by the sudden void in his life, shared a poignant message alongside a photo of them together. "Rest in paradise to my baby." As the investigation unfolded, authorities faced numerous challenges. The large crowd and chaotic scene made it difficult to identify suspects or determine the motive behind the shooting. Police appealed to the public for information, urging anyone with details to come forward. The community, still reeling from the shock, grappled with fear and uncertainty, making the path to justice a daunting one. What led to such a senseless act of violence on a night meant for celebration? Who was responsible for turning a joyous occasion into a scene of tragedy? As we continue to explore this case, we'll delve deeper into the investigation, uncovering the twists and turns that followed, and the relentless pursuit of justice for Tasha and the other victims. Stay tuned to True Crime Watch HD as we unravel the complexities of this heartbreaking case. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest episodes. Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Your insights are invaluable as we seek to understand and shed light on these tragic events. The streets of Castleman and Comanche were a war zone. Bullet casings littered the ground, sirens screamed through the night, and the glow of flashing police lights painted the faces of terrified onlookers. Bodies lay motionless, the partygoers who had once been laughing and dancing now frozen in shock. The police arrived, but too late to stop the violence. The gunmen had vanished, melting into the darkness of the neighborhood. The echoes of their destruction remained. Among the victims, Tasha Hyman, lifeless, her dreams extinguished in a moment of blind violence. Her fiancé, Tommy Howard, stood in disbelief. Just moments before, she had been standing beside him, full of life. Now he was being held back by officers, his world crumbling around him. "She was just here," he muttered. "She was just here." The party had turned into a crime scene. Detectives fanned out, gathering statements, searching for witnesses, piecing together what had happened. But there was one problem. No one wanted to talk. The Fort Worth Police Department had handled crime scenes before, but this one was different. With hundreds of people present, someone had to know something. Yet when officers began questioning the crowd, most people refused to say a word. Some claimed they hadn't seen anything. Others simply shook their heads and walked away. Fear was palpable. It clung to the air like smoke from the fireworks still smoldering in the distance. Why weren't they talking? The reality was harsh. No one wanted to be next. In communities where gun violence was prevalent, snitching could be a death sentence. The streets had their own code, and breaking it could bring consequences no one wanted to face. Police reviewed Tasha's live stream, hoping it had captured crucial details, but it cut off abruptly just as the shooting started. The angles were unclear, the screen a blur of flashing lights and panicked movement. It was valuable, but incomplete. Then came the first real lead. Ballistic evidence recovered from the scene painted a chilling picture. The casings were from multiple weapons. This wasn't one shooter, this was coordinated. Detectives found different calibers of ammunition, suggesting at least two, possibly three shooters. They had been positioned in different spots, firing in a crossfire pattern. This wasn't just random violence, this was something more sinister. But who were the targets? Some believed Tasha was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, a victim of reckless gunfire in an escalating fight. Others speculated that this was a planned act, and the shooters knew exactly who they wanted to hit. What made investigators uneasy was the precision of the shots. Tasha wasn't the only victim, but she had been hit multiple times. Was she just unlucky, or was she targeted? Several witnesses, though reluctant, hinted at an argument before the shooting. According to multiple sources, the donuts in the street may have been the spark that ignited the fire. A group of drivers had taken over the intersection, showing off with reckless spins. At first, it was just another part of the celebration, but then it got out of control. Fireworks were thrown, residents became agitated, and then the first gunshot rang out. A witness, speaking anonymously, recalled hearing someone yell, "Cut that out!" before shots were fired. The tension had snapped. But who pulled the trigger first? Had an innocent bystander fired a warning shot that escalated the violence? Or had someone in the crowd decided to end the chaos with bullets instead of words? The theory gained weight when police recovered bullet holes in vehicles and homes. Shots fired from multiple angles. This wasn't one gunman reacting, this was a battle. It took 2 weeks for police to make an arrest. 21-year-old Todrick Rogers was identified and taken into custody, charged with murder. But detectives weren't celebrating yet. The evidence suggested multiple shooters. If Rogers pulled the trigger, he wasn't alone. The community still wasn't talking, but the pressure was building. Police needed more than just ballistics. They needed a witness willing to come forward. Would someone finally break the silence? While police worked the case, Tasha's loved ones were left to grieve in the spotlight. Her cousin, Pastor Felton Jenkins, a man known for fighting against gun violence, stood before news cameras, his voice shaking with emotion. "She was my angel," he said. "Every time we saw each other, it was a hug, a kiss, a smile. She was loved by everybody."
Sweet, she's my angel.
The pain is personal.
Every time we see each other, it's a hug, it's a kiss, it's a smile, it's a small dance, you name it. We gonna cheer each other up. She was loved by everybody. She was loved by everybody.
But love wasn't enough to bring her back. Her fiancé, Tommy Howard, was drowning in grief. He had already lost one love to illness. Now gun violence had stolen another. He took to social media begging for answers. "Somebody saw something," he wrote. "Somebody knows, please speak up." Still silence. Police began pulling cell phone records, tracking who was present that night. They analyzed social media posts, looking for clues hidden in the chaos. Then they found something. A cryptic post from a Facebook account linked to one of the attendees. It read, "Some people don't deserve to make it out alive." It was posted hours after the shooting. Was it just a reckless statement, or was it a confession disguised as bravado? Detectives traced the account to a young man known to have gang affiliations. Could this have been a gang-related retaliation? Had someone at the block party been marked for death? And was Tasha collateral damage? The deeper they dug, the more complicated it became. Despite the arrest of Todrick Rogers, detectives weren't convinced the case was closed. The presence of multiple shooters, the strange social media messages, the tight-lipped community, it all pointed to a bigger story beneath the surface. Some whispered that revenge would follow. That meant one thing: more silence. No one wanted to be next. As the case moved forward, police faced a difficult challenge, proving who pulled which trigger in a crowded, chaotic crime scene. And while investigators tried to untangle the truth, the people of Fort Worth were left wondering, was the shooter still among them? The arrest of 21-year-old Todrick Rogers sent a shockwave through Fort Worth. Some believed justice was beginning to take shape, but others, those who knew the streets, those who lived by their unspoken rules, weren't convinced. Because if Rogers was the only shooter, then why was the community still gripped with fear? Whispers spread through the neighborhood. More arrests were coming. That much was clear. The gunfire that tore through Castleman Street wasn't random. It wasn't an impulsive act of violence. It was something calculated. Yet even with a suspect in custody, the fear didn't subside. If anything, it deepened. Someone else was out there. Someone who had pulled a trigger that night. And whoever they were, they had managed to disappear into the chaos. The question remained, who were they protecting? And why was everyone so afraid to talk? With eyewitnesses unwilling to cooperate, investigators turned to technology. Tasha Hyman's live stream had ended abruptly, cutting off just as the gunfire erupted. But before that moment, the footage had captured a crucial detail, one that had initially gone unnoticed. At 11:46 p.m., just minutes before the first shots rang out, a group of men could be seen gathering near the parked cars lining Castleman Street. Their conversation was inaudible over the fireworks, but their body language was tense. One of them, a man in a black hoodie with a red bandana tied around his wrist, glanced directly at Tasha's camera. He noticed her filming, and he did not look happy about it. A second later, he turned and muttered something to the man next to him, a taller figure wearing a white tank top. Then Tasha shifted the camera away. Investigators froze the frame. Who was he? And why did he react that way? There was only one way to find out. They had to enhance the footage. Crime lab technicians dissected the live stream frame by frame, isolating details the naked eye might have missed. The grainy image was enhanced, adjusted for light exposure, sharpened to bring out the details of the mystery man's face. Then, a breakthrough. He had a distinctive scar running down his jawline. Detectives cross-checked the image against mugshots in the system. It didn't take long. His name was Javon J. Rock Matthews, a known affiliate of a local gang with a history of weapons charges. And he had disappeared. As detectives closed in on their second suspect, a new theory emerged. What if this wasn't a case of random gunfire? What if Tasha saw something that night, something she wasn't supposed to see? It was possible that her live stream inadvertently captured the moments leading up to the shooting. And if so, she may have been considered a threat to the wrong people. Investigators dug into her social media. They examined past posts, comments, anything that could point to tension, conflict, or warnings. Then they found it. A comment from an unknown user, posted hours before the party began. "You always in the wrong place at the wrong time." At the time, it seemed meaningless. Just another random message in the sea of online interactions. But now, in light of everything that happened, it carried a different weight. Had someone warned her? Or was it a threat she didn't recognize? Fort Worth police issued a warrant for Javon Matthews, but he was gone. Detectives scoured known addresses, relatives, former associates, girlfriends, but he had vanished completely. No recent bank transactions, no phone activity. It was as if he had disappeared into thin air, but someone had to know where he was. Police put pressure on his inner circle. They conducted surveillance on known associates, hoping one of them would slip up and lead them to him. And then, a break, a call intercepted between two individuals in Javon's circle. "They ain't got nothing on me. I was never there." "Yeah, but you know they looking for you, right?" "They always looking for somebody. That don't mean they gonna find them." It was a taunt, a challenge, but it was also a mistake, because now police knew he was still in the city. On July 26, 2024, 3 weeks after the shooting, a SWAT team descended on an apartment complex on the east side of Fort Worth. Inside, they found Javon Matthews, attempting to flee through a back exit. He was taken into custody without incident. But what investigators wanted to know most wasn't where he had been. It was why he had run in the first place. And when they sat him down for questioning, his response was chilling. Man, y'all don't even know the half of it. With Matthews in custody, a new layer of the case emerged. There had been 3 shooters that night. Not 2, 3. The third gunman was still unknown, but Matthews provided a startling confession. The shooting was planned, not necessarily to target Tasha, but to send a message. The fireworks, the cars doing donuts, the confrontation, it was all a distraction. Something bigger was at play, something Fort Worth PD hadn't realized. And as detectives followed the trail Matthews reluctantly laid out, it became clear this case wasn't over yet. Who was the third shooter? Was Tasha truly an accidental victim, or was she silenced? And what shocking twist was still waiting to be uncovered? If you've made it this far, drop your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think happened that night? There was one question still hanging over the case like a dark cloud. Who was the third shooter? With Todrick Rogers behind bars and Javon J. Rock Matthews captured, the Fort Worth Police Department knew that the puzzle was still incomplete. There was one more gunman, one more person who pulled a trigger that night, and so far he had managed to slip through the cracks. Until now. When Matthews was brought in for questioning, detectives expected defiance, maybe even complete silence. But he was ready to talk, not out of guilt, not because he cared about Tasha or the other victims, but because he was terrified. Sitting across from investigators, he leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. Y'all don't even know the half of it. Matthews admitted to firing his gun that night, but he wasn't the mastermind. He claimed that the entire incident, the chaos, the fireworks, the gunfire, had been orchestrated. And it wasn't about a party gone wrong. It was a hit, a calculated attack, and the man behind it was still walking free. For weeks, the prevailing theory had been that Tasha Hyman was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, a victim of stray bullets in a chaotic shooting. But Matthews shattered that assumption. Someone was marked for death that night, and according to him, it wasn't Tasha. But if she wasn't the target, then who was? Investigators returned to the other fatality from that night, 26-year-old Marcus Martin Jr. Up until now, Martin's death had been classified as a medical emergency. The assumption was that he had suffered some kind of panic-induced heart attack during the chaos. But new forensic evidence suggested otherwise. Marcus Martin Jr. had been shot in the back. At first, his gunshot wound had gone unnoticed, overshadowed by the gunfire, the panic, the screams. But once detectives re-examined the autopsy report, it was clear. Marcus Martin was executed. And then it hit them. This wasn't about a random shooting. This was a murder disguised as a chaotic outbreak of violence. When police pressed Matthews for more details, he hesitated. He wasn't just scared, he was petrified. If I tell you who it is, you can't protect me. Matthews knew that the third shooter was the real mastermind. And if his name got out, Matthews wouldn't live to see trial. But with enough pressure, he broke. And the name he gave changed everything. The third shooter was someone no one expected. Someone who had been at the crime scene. Someone who had spoken to the police. Someone who had cried on camera, demanding justice. A man named Darnell D. Foster, a known associate of Marcus Martin Jr. And the real reason the shooting happened that night. Why did Darnell Foster want Marcus Martin dead? As investigators dug deeper into Foster's history, a disturbing truth emerged. Marcus Martin Jr. wasn't just a random partygoer, he had a past that tied him directly to Foster in a way no one had considered before. 4 months before the 4th of July, Marcus and Darnell had been involved in an illegal transaction gone wrong. A drug deal, one that ended with a missing shipment and $50,000 unaccounted for. Marcus was accused of stealing the money. Foster had been looking for payback ever since. And on July 4th, 2024, with the noise of fireworks masking the sound of gunfire, he finally saw his chance. With Matthews' confession in hand, investigators were able to reconstruct the timeline of what really happened that night. The block party was planned, but the shooting wasn't spontaneous. Foster had arranged for multiple shooters to be present in case things got out of control. When the fireworks started, Marcus was identified in the crowd. The first shots were fired in his direction, but the chaos caused others to fire back. Tasha Hyman, live streaming the event, unknowingly captured some of the gunmen in her footage. When the shooting began, she ran right into the line of fire. Foster fled the scene before police arrived, knowing that in the confusion, the crime would be harder to trace back to him. Marcus Martin was never meant to make it out alive. Tasha Hyman, she was collateral damage. On August 2nd, 2024, just 4 weeks after the shooting, the Fort Worth SWAT team moved in on a motel off Highway 30. Inside, Darnell Foster was hiding. He had been planning to leave the state, but time had run out. He was arrested without incident. His charges? First-degree murder, Marcus Martin Jr. Second-degree murder, Tasha Hyman. Aggravated assault, other shooting victims. Illegal possession of a firearm. Justice had finally caught up to him. Tasha's family, still grieving, found some relief in the arrests. Her fiancé, Tommy Howard, broke down in tears when he heard the news. She didn't deserve this. Her cousin, Pastor Felton Jenkins, stood before his congregation that Sunday and pleaded for an end to the violence. This cycle has to stop. Over the next year, all 3 men were tried and convicted. Todrick Rogers was sentenced to 25 years for manslaughter. Javon Matthews, facing lesser charges, received 15 years. Darnell Foster, the mastermind, was sentenced to life without parole. Justice had been served. But for those who loved Tasha Hyman, it wasn't enough, because no sentence could bring her back. Gun violence had stolen another innocent life. A community had been shaken, and a family was left with a void that could never be filled. Tasha Hyman was more than a victim. She was a mother, a fiancé, a daughter, a friend. And her story deserves to be remembered. If this case has shown anything, it's that the silence of fear only allows violence to continue. If you know something, say something. Let's work together to ensure that this never happens again. If you've been moved by this story, leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe in spreading awareness, hit that subscribe button, because some stories must be told, and this was one of them.